Good morning. You're watching City News 24/7. I'm Afia Ba. We begin with federal politics. Conservatives have voted to keep Pierre Poilievre as their party leader. And as our Glen McGregor joins us now, Glen, Poilievre received an overwhelming support from his own party last night.
That's right, Afia. And coming into this convention, the thinking was that he needed to get at least 80% support from the delegates there. He's supposed to be representing delegates from right across the country. About 95% of those riding associations eligible to vote actually did that, and it was a pretty good number, as you said, 87.4. That's even better than the mark set by Stephen Harper back in 2005. Remember, Harper ran and lost an election, his first election as Conservative leader, just as Pierre Poilievre did, and then he had to go through that leadership review, got that 84% level back in 2005, and then went on to win the following year, early 2006, winning power for the first time, and then ultimately, in his third term, getting a majority government. So there's a good precedent there. I don't think there's any doubts this morning about Pierre Poilievre's leadership from within his own party. If there was any unity issue in his party ranks, I think it has been kind of quieted down now. He was reeling, of course, late last year from the defections, two separate MPs leaving the Conservative caucus, crossing the floor to join the Liberals. That really did rock him. This is going to go a long way as long as there are no more defections. So a big part of this last night, though, was Pierre Poilievre's speech. A lot of attention there, full room there in Calgary to hear what he had to say in advance of that vote. It was a speech really focused on some familiar themes with Pierre Poilievre. This was not a pivot in terms of tone, really. It's pretty much the same guy, the same message we've been hearing. Really, actually, all last year, including during the election, a focus on affordability, some issues about immigration, a lot of focus on crime. In fact, one bit of news that Poilievre made in the course of that speech was talking about how if he was to form government, he would bring in really strong castle laws. These are pieces of legislation in the United States that allows people to use force when defending their home from, for example, home invasions, of which we've seen so much of in the GTA, also in lower mainland of British Columbia. So that got a lot of resonance. But really, this message here was about bringing Pierre Poilievre back. He's making his case to the party faithful to stay on as leader. Take a listen to a little bit of this speech from last night and as he makes his case to stay in his job.
Because the unsung heroes who built and protect this country, who have it infinitely harder than I do, they never give up. So I have no right to give up. Because all of you who pound signs on frozen ground, knock doors on dark nights, and sacrifice warm family dinners for cold campaign pizza, you never give up, so I'll never give up.
Now, Poilievre, one of the criticisms of him over the last year is that he did not adapt to the threat that was Donald Trump to Canada's sovereignty and to Canada's economy. He did talk about this last night, and in his speech he said he would continue to support the Carney government as they negotiate with the Trump administration over tariffs. But interesting, he'd never used the word Trump once in his speech, kind of alluded to it, but did not actually say the president's name. Also kind of danced around the issue of Alberta's separatism. You know, we've seen a lot of this rising sentiment in the West, people unhappy with the way things have gone in Alberta, even though Alberta's economy is very prosperous, is still the wealthiest province in terms of income levels, on average, household income levels on average than the rest of the country, and they're exporting more oil than they have really in kind of modern history. So things are going well in Alberta, but the people there don't feel it. It's a vibe issue, and separatism is really rolling. But Poilievre didn't really say anything about this in his speech other than to blame Justin Trudeau's Liberals. He says the problems with separation both in Alberta and Quebec, because we know the Parti Québécois is likely to win the election sometime this year. It's going to be held before October, and they have promised to have another referendum, Quebec's third, on independence. So we have this going on in two separate parts of the country. Poilievre saying in his speech, this is entirely the fault of the Liberals. Did not express any support for the separatist movements, but did kind of blame it back on Justin Trudeau and to a lesser extent Mark Carney. There was an emotional moment, and we're not used to hearing these in Pierre Poilievre's speech because he's not really a publicly emotional guy, but he did get a little bit misty last night when he was talking about his own family and the struggles he's had with his daughter, who has been nonverbal and has obviously been a big strain on Poilievre's family. Listen to what he had to say there.
That thing that you call meaning could be for you a home, a career, a family, a business. Seeing your autistic daughter speak for the first time is the thing. It's the thing.
There, Poilievre choking up a little bit of reference to his daughter Valentina, who has had some special needs and has been a difficult issue for Poilievre. He doesn't talk about it publicly very often, but did there, and getting a very warm response of support from the crowd. Now, does Poilievre, coming out of this, now he's got this endorsement from his own party, how does Canadians feel about him? Well, he's still got a lot of issues. Public opinion polling shows he is deeply underwater on his popularity levels. In fact, that's getting worse. Recent polling out just this week shows Mark Carney is increasing his popular support very much in the positive territory. Poilievre, with the exception of young men and people in Alberta, Poilievre's overall level of personal popularity is declining. This has been an issue for the party, and it was an issue during the campaign. The party brand polls well. He's still got a lot of support, running neck and neck on sort of a party option choice between the Liberals and the Conservatives, but Poilievre is dragging that number down as he did in the campaign. We'll see what he says today. It's possible he will speak again. We are expecting, however, later today, Afia will hear from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. She is obviously very supportive of Poilievre, would like to see him in the job as Prime Minister, but we'll also see additionally what Premier Smith has to say about these ongoing questions about Alberta separatism and the possibility that there have been talks between some of the people leading the separatist movement and members of the Trump administration. Expect that hear from her later today, this afternoon.
Very dynamic convention going on so far. Glen McGregor breaking it all down for us. Glen, thanks so much.